The Pill God Clan, Inner Domain. A massive teleportation array slowly rotated with dazzling brilliance. This was the teleportation array that directly led to the Nine Valleys realm. Half a year ago, Xiao Yan had used this very array to travel to the Nine Valleys realm. At this moment, not far from the teleportation array, two figures hovered in the air. They gazed at the still operating teleportation array in front of them, seemingly waiting for something. The 10,000 pills gathering would commence in 3 days, yet there were no signs of Xiao Yan emerging from it. Elder Danqiang, how about we go in and take a look? A Pill God Clan elder spoke to Elder Danqiang. They had been waiting here for several days to guide Xiao Yan to the great domain of 10,000 pills. Don't rush. Let's wait a little longer. Perhaps he is researching something important. Elder Danqiang replied, then turned to ask, I heard that the Dou Domain sent 8 people to meet with him? Yes, 8 young ones. They arrived a day ago and have now been placed in the inner domain, waiting for Xiao Yan to emerge. The elder answered, they should be the next generation of alchemists from the Dou Domain. Though the highest rank among them is only a mystic alchemist, their potential is immense. If fate permits, perhaps all of them will become divine alchemists. But even if the Dou Domain births 8 divine alchemists, it still seems far-fetched for them to develop into a dimensional magnate like the Western Heaven Palace or the land of 10,000 graves. Hee, this is just the beginning for them. Elder Danqiang chuckled and said, in the future, the Dou Domain may grow into a dimensional magnate, rivaling even the Western Heaven Palace and the land of 10,000 graves. It all depends on him, doesn't it? The elder said, his gaze turning toward the teleportation array ahead, his thoughts clearly focused on Xiao Yan. If the Dou Domain world were to become a giant in the Great Thousand Worlds, perhaps it would truly depend on what this young man would accomplish in the future. The 10,000 pills gathering might be the turning point for the rise of the Dou Domain. Buzz. Just as Elder Danqiang and the elder were conversing, a wave of spiritual energy suddenly emanated from the teleportation array, which had been inactive for half a year. The array began to activate. Is he finally coming out? The two elders sensed the fluctuation from the teleportation array and immediately focused their attention on its center, waiting for the figure that had been in the Nine Valleys realm for 3 years to emerge. However, after several minutes of waiting, they were puzzled to find that Xiao Yan's aura had still not appeared. Swish. Just as Elder Danqiang and the elder were puzzled, a brilliant pillar of light suddenly shot up from the center of the teleportation array, its size towering to 1,000 feet, piercing the heavens. At the same time, Xiao Yan's aura finally began to emanate from the center of the array, and both Elder Danqiang and the elder sensed it. However, as soon as Elder Danqiang sensed Xiao Yan's aura, his brow furrowed slightly. Because the aura radiating from the pillar not only belonged to Xiao Yan, but more accurately, thousands upon thousands of similar auras, varying in strength, poured out from the pillar. Swish, swish, swish. Just as Elder Danqiang and the elder furrowed their brows, the thousands of auras broke free from the brilliant pillar of light. Nearly 10,000 figures in black robes shot out, their appearances strikingly identical to Xiao Yan's, like perfect replicas. Behind these Xiao Yan figures, each carried a massive black ruler. Before Elder Danqiang and the elder's eyes, they saw the tens of thousands of Xiao Yan figures form into a battle formation, soaring through the sky. Then, from tens of thousands of feet away from the two elders, all of them simultaneously gripped the large black ruler behind them. At that moment, their expressions changed drastically. Destruction Flame Ruler. A thunderous voice, shouted by all the Xiao Yan figures in unison, reverberated through the heavens. Then, Elder Danqiang saw the black rulers, held tightly by the 10,000 Xiao Yan figures, simultaneously sweep out. A destructive attack, akin to annihilation, descended in that instant. The attack target of the 10,000 Xiao Yan figures was Elder Danqiang and the elder. Retreat. Realizing that they were the targets of the attack, Elder Danqiang bellowed, and his figure immediately shot backward. Although he was an Earth Supreme expert at great perfection and the commander of the heavenly pill army of pill gods, the overwhelming destructive force approaching from the front made him genuinely wary. The attack from the 10,000 Xiao Yan figures wasn't the battle intent of a battle formation master, but rather pure flame energy and spiritual energy. Yet, the perfectly synchronized momentum created a mysterious frequency, allowing their combined power to be amplified to a terrifying degree. The Black Ruler attacks launched by the 10,000 Xiao Yan figures coalesced into a massive, nearly 10,000-foot-high wave of searing heat. This scorching tide, formed by densely packed flame energy, melted the space it passed through. Boom, boom. A vast, scorching tidal wave, towering to a height of 100,000 zhang, roared towards Elder Danqiang and the other elder who had retreated in haste. The terrifying force behind it made the trailing Elder Danqiang break out in a cold sweat. Despite his strength as a high-level Earth Supreme, his intuition told him that under such a fierce assault, his outcome would inevitably be either death or serious injury. Elder Danqiang, what's going on? The elder who had retreated alongside him asked in shock. They hadn't expected the welcoming party for Xiao Yan to face such a terrifying force. The blazing tidal wave approached at an incredible speed, and when it was less than 10,000 zhang away from the two elders, Elder Danqiang suddenly stopped. Retreat first. With that shout, Elder Danqiang turned his palm over. As his palm turned, the spiritual power within 100,000 miles of the surrounding world surged like a boiling sea, rushing towards him. The overwhelming spectacle made it clear that Elder Danqiang was preparing to use all his strength to stop the scorching tidal wave. Seeing this, the other elder from the Pill God clan also quickly retreated. Rumble. The vast spiritual energy of the world converged behind Elder Danqiang, forming a massive vortex several tens of thousands of zhang wide. Within the swirling energy, a towering figure, nearly 10,000 zhang tall, gradually emerged. It was a giant that appeared ancient and withered, and his arrival was accompanied by a fragrance of pills that permeated the world. This fragrance gradually calmed the boiling spiritual energy, and the elder who had retreated saw this and was horrified to realize that Elder Danqiang had summoned his supreme Dharmakaya. He's even invoked the ancestral pill spiritual body. The ancestral pill spiritual body, ranked 22nd in the 99 supreme Dharmakayas, was a superlative supreme Dharmakaya. Its origin stemmed from one of the earliest ancestors of the Pill God clan, a being formed naturally by the convergence of heaven and earth into a sacred pill known as the ancestral pill. The ancestral pill was one of the top 3 sacred pills in the ancient pill scripture. With the ancestral pill spiritual body appearing, Elder Danqiang began to rapidly form a complicated seal. At the same time, the spiritual power from all the plants, creatures, and celestial forces within 100,000 zhang gathered at breakneck speed, forming countless pill-sized pills. The number of pills was uncountable, their quality unknown, and as they gathered, they formed a massive tidal wave of pills, over 100,000 zhang wide, hurtling towards the fiery tidal wave created by the 1,000 Xiao Yans. Boom! The massive tidal wave of pills collided with the fiery tidal wave in midair, and the force that obliterated everything spread, disintegrating the surrounding space within 1,000,000 zhang. Fortunately, the force expanded upwards into the sky. Otherwise, the destruction would have leveled millions of miles of land. Whoosh! As the two forces of destruction exploded in the sky, the shock waves sent Elder Danqiang retreating rapidly, stabilizing himself in the distant sky. He looked at the devastated scene before him, his expression heavy with concern. The destructive force subsided after several breaths, and in the center of the shattered space, Elder Danqiang, relying on his ancestral pill spiritual body, faced off against the 1,000 Xiao Yans. Just as the two sides faced each other, a massive space crack suddenly tore open in the distant sky, revealing a desolate world beyond. Whoosh! 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 As the massive space crack appeared, the 1,000 Xiao Yan surged into it. Once they all entered, the crack vanished, but one person remained behind. Standing behind the 1,000 Xiao Yans all this time was none other than the real Xiao Yan. Buzz. After sending his 1,000 copies into the heavenly tomb, Xiao Yan crossed a distance of over 1,000,000 zhang and appeared before Elder Danqiang. The two locked eyes, then smiled. "Did you spend these 3 years preparing for this?" Elder Danqiang asked, looking at Xiao Yan. Heh, I apologize for my earlier rudeness, Elder Danqiong. Xiao Yan chuckled, then asked, I've heard that you are a battle formation master. From your perspective, how would you rate the level of my army? The army Xiao Yan had just summoned was made up of over 10,000 pills, each inscribed with a spiritual mark of Xiao Yan's soul. At his will, these pills unleashed tremendous power, and when gathered together, they formed the destructive assault witnessed earlier. Although this isn't an army driven by battle intent, the sheer precision of the formation and the power unleashed exceeds that of some battle-intent armies led by formation masters, Elder Danqiong said. Xiao Yan couldn't help but smile. As Elder Danqiong had said, the team formed from the pill just now hadn't fully unleashed its power when attacking Elder Danqiong. Whoosh! Just as Xiao Yan and Elder Danqiong were conversing, a sound of breaking air reached their ears, followed by the sight of the elder who had previously retreated, now swooping down from the distant sky. It turns out that was just a test. It made me panic for nothing, the elder said after landing. However, as he looked at Xiao Yan, there was now a deeper respect in his gaze, for the method Xiao Yan had just used was truly terrifying. That was likely an army composed entirely of divine pills. The 10,000 pills gathering is about to begin, Elder Danqiong said to Xiao Yan. Come with me. Those from the Dou Domain are waiting for you to emerge. Whoosh! As his words finished, Elder Danqiong darted forward, with Xiao Yan and another elder following closely behind. What was about to unfold was the grandest alchemy gathering the great 1,000 worlds had ever seen. Welcome, Domain Lord. Upon Xiao Yan's arrival, Yao Xin and his 8 companions immediately bowed to him and were about to kneel. However, just as their knees were about to touch the ground, a surge of spiritual power from the front lifted their bodies, keeping them upright. The one who had made this move was clearly Xiao Yan. The 8 of them were momentarily stunned as they felt the force that straightened their bodies. Now, this is more like it. Standing straight always looks better than bowing down, Xiao Yan said as he descended from midair and stood in front of Yao Xin's group. With a slight wave of his hand, the spiritual energy that had supported their bodies vanished. Although the force that had supported them disappeared, the 8 of them did not immediately kneel again. They simply stood, gazing at the man in the black robe before them. The Lord of the Dou Domain, the person whom all the young elites of the Dou Domain chased after, was now standing right in front of them. They had come here because of an announcement made by him 6 months ago. For Xiao Xuanzi and others, Xiao Yan was not only a member of the Xiao clan like themselves, but a life-saving benefactor. As for the others, it was clear they held immense respect for Xiao Yan. The lower dimensions are slower than the great 1,000 worlds in their development, but in terms of potential, the people from the lower dimensions are not inferior to those geniuses in the great 1,000 worlds. In fact, there are several alliances formed by those who broke through the barriers from the lower dimensions, such as the Undying Lord from the Land of 10,000 Graves, the 100 Battle Emperor from the Western Heaven Palace, the Green Robe Sword Saint from the Sword Domain, and the Nan Tianzi from the Great 1,000 Alliance. Their achievements are not inferior to the clan leaders of the ancient races in the Great 1,000 Worlds, Xiao Yan said, folding his arms, addressing the 8 in front of him. So, although we come from the lower dimensions, we are not lower beings. Xiao Yan's words left Yao Xin and the others stunned, and they finally understood. The man before them had journeyed from a fragmented world to the Great 1,000 Worlds, and now had unified the Dou Domain world. Having reached the pinnacle of the Great 1,000 Worlds as a heavenly supreme expert, what he relied on was not just opportunities and innate talent, but more importantly, an indomitable willpower that would never yield, no matter where he went. That was a sentiment that resonated with heaven and earth. Hee, no wonder you're the Lord of the Dou Domain. Truly formidable, young man. A voice came from not far away, just as Xiao Yan spoke to Yao Xin and the others. The space behind Xiao Yan distorted, and then 3 elderly figures emerged. 2 of them were Elder Danqiong and another elder from the Pill God clan, who had brought Xiao Yan here earlier. The third was an elderly figure who seemed as though he had lived for thousands of years. His arrival was calm, without bringing any oppressive feeling to Yao Xin and the others. Only those of Xiao Yan's level could sense the terrifying presence of this elder. This was a true heavenly supreme expert, and within his body, There was the unmistakable scent of pill fragrance that could stir the heavens and the earth. This did not mean that the elder's physical form was a pill, but rather that he possessed a super-divine pill within him. Xiao Yan could clearly feel that this super-divine pill was the elder's heart. "I am Dan Tianyuan, the supreme elder of the Pill God clan," the elder said to Xiao Yan. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan looked at the elder, cupped his hands in respect, and was taken aback. He hadn't expected that apart from Danyu, the Pill God clan had another heavenly supreme expert. It seemed that the Pill God clan's foundation was even deeper than he had imagined. "The 10,000 pills gathering will begin in 3 days. I will personally take you to the great domain of 10,000 pills," Dan Tianyuan said, looking at Xiao Yan and Yao Xin's group. "Why is Senior Danyu not here?" He and the young generation of the Pill God clan, who were originally prepared to participate in the 10,000 pills gathering, had already headed to the great domain of 10,000 pills. Dan Tianyuan said, then with a wave of his sleeve, a beam of spiritual light pierced through the void, forming a massive light array several hundred feet wide beneath their feet. This was a teleportation array, directly leading to the center of the great domain of 10,000 pills. The future of the world will always be created by the younger generation. We, the bystanders, can only hope that you don't disappoint us, Dan Tianyuan said to Xiao Yan, his figure slowly rising and floating toward the air. Left behind in the teleportation array were Xiao Yan, Yao Xin, and the other 8, as well as Elder Danqiong and another Pill God clan elder. Clearly, as the supreme elder of the Pill God clan, Dan Tianyuan could not leave the clan at such a time. In the absence of the clan leader and many other elders, he was the super pillar holding the clan together. Xiao Yan nodded at his words. He glanced at Yao Xin and the others. As Elder Dan Tianyuan said, the younger generation would be the ones to shape the future, whether in the Great Thousand Worlds or the Douqi world. Get ready to depart. The 10,000 pills gathering will have many powerful experts in alchemy. From here on out, everything depends on yourselves, Dan Tianyuan said, a spiritual seal flicking from his hand. Whoosh! As the spiritual seal shot from Dan Tianyuan's hand and fused with the teleportation array beneath Xiao Yan and the others' feet, they felt a wave of energy spread from the array. The space distorted, and with a burst of brilliant light, Xiao Yan and the others were enveloped. Their figures transformed into light and shadows, gradually disappearing into the array. Looking at the disappearing figures of Xiao Yan and the others, Dan Tianyuan smiled faintly. Approximately a few minutes later, in the great domain of 10,000 pills, a vast, endless valley, a teleportation array several hundred feet wide appeared. Then, more than 10 figures materialized, including Xiao Yan and the others. Is this the great domain of 10,000 pills? Xiao Yan said lightly. He looked around, and within the nearby range, he saw towering peaks over 1,000 feet tall, covered with countless spiritual herbs. When his gaze turned further into the valley, he saw even bigger mountains. The deeper they went into the great domain of 10,000 pills, the larger the mountains became. When Xiao Yan used his heavenly soul to scan the entire area, he finally saw a towering peak in the center of the great domain of 10,000 pills. This mountain was over several million feet tall. From the ground, he could only see the foot of the mountain, as the higher parts had already broken through the clouds and pierced the sky. But what truly caught Xiao Yan's attention was the situation at the top of that super mountain. At the top of the mountain, there was a vast, flat area, and above it, a massive space distortion, hundreds of thousands of feet wide, had formed a vortex. At this very moment, countless figures from distant horizons were breaking through the sky, heading toward the mountain's summit. These thousands of figures were all advanced alchemists, comparable to Yao Xin and the others. The thousands of figures rapidly passed through the clouds and headed toward the mountain's peak. Above the colossal mountain, a space vortex hovered in midair, seemingly endless. The pinnacle of 10,000 pills. 3 days from now, the 10,000 pills gathering will begin here. Beside Xiao Yan, Elder Danqiong also gazed at the massive mountain in the distance. After taking a deep breath, he cupped his hands toward Xiao Yan and said, the 10,000 pills gathering is co-hosted by the Pill God clan and the ancient myriad grass plains. The people who can come here are all powerful figures, and managing this is extremely difficult. We need to meet up with the clan leader and the others and assist them. Xiao Yan nodded upon hearing this. He understood what Elder Danqiong meant. As he said, the people here were all no weaklings. During the earlier scan with his heavenly soul, Xiao Yan covered only part of the mountain's peak, but within this range, there were already thousands of Supreme Realm experts, including dozens of Earth sovereigns. Swish, swish. After cupping their hands to Xiao Yan, Elder Danqiong and the other elder moved swiftly and flew toward the towering mountain in the distance. Left behind were Xiao Yan and Yao Xin's group of 8. "We have 3 days." Xiao Yan turned to Yao Xin and the others, pointing toward the massive mountain in the distance that could not be fully seen with the naked eye. From here, about 100,000 miles ahead is the highest peak in the entire Great Domain of 10,000 Pills. The 10,000 Pills gathering will be held there. Before that, I need to temporarily leave due to some matters. With that, Xiao Yan flipped his hand, and 8 jade bottles appeared. He handed one to each of Yao Xin and the others. Each bottle contains 1 million Supreme Spirit Liquids and 2 Destruction Lotus Pills. Use the Supreme Spirit Liquids for your cultivation. The Destruction Lotus Pills can be detonated in emergencies. Hearing Xiao Yan's words, the 8 of them from Yao Xin were slightly shaken in their hearts. Although they didn't know why Xiao Yan had to leave temporarily, they still carefully took the jade bottles he handed over. These jade bottles contained trump cards that could even intimidate a 9th grade Supreme. And if they were to be separated at the upcoming 10,000 Pills gathering, this would serve as their means of self-preservation in this vast Great Thousand world. After distributing the jade bottles to the 8, Xiao Yan then took out 3 scrolls and handed them to Yao Xin, Yi Yin, and Tian Maluo. These are the Supreme Dharmakayas, which can be practiced by anyone who has reached the Supreme stage in the Great Thousand world. They are similar to the Dou Emperor body in the Dou Domain. For those of you just stepping into the Supreme stage, the Supreme Dharmakaya is quite important and can be considered a trump card. Take the next 3 days to study these. Thank you, Senior Xiao Yan, Yao Xin and the others said with surprise as they took the scrolls from Xiao Yan and immediately expressed their thanks. Stay here and cultivate for the next 3 days. Afterward, meet me at the mountaintop I told you about earlier. I'll be waiting there, Xiao Yan instructed. After everything was settled, he waved at the 8, then his figure moved, and he swiftly shot into the distant sky. Once Xiao Yan left, the 8 from Yao Xin exchanged glances. Heh, Senior Xiao Yan doesn't seem as distant and unreachable as I imagined, Yao Anren said, looking at the others and then at the direction Xiao Yan had left, grinning. Upon hearing Yao Anren, Yao Xin and the others smiled as well. He had originally thought Xiao Yan would be the kind of person who felt distant and incredibly imposing, but standing next to Xiao Yan, that feeling was absent. Instead, there was a sense of reliability. We should remain here and not wander off for the next 3 days. Let's cultivate here and then head to the mountaintop for the 10,000 Pills gathering, Yao Xin said. The others nodded in agreement. The 8 of them then sat in a circle and, after setting up an energy shield, Yao Xin, Yi Yin, and Tian Maluo began studying the Supreme Dharmakaya scrolls Xiao Yan had given them. The others entered their cultivation states one by one with the aid of the Supreme Spiritual Liquid. Under this cultivation state, the 3 days quickly passed by, as time seemed to fly for cultivators, merely a blink of an eye. When the 8 of them opened their eyes, they could clearly feel the overwhelming surge of spiritual energy flowing through the heavens and earth around them, even grander than 3 days ago. This was caused by the growing number of powerful cultivators gathering over the past 3 days. The scale of the 10,000 Pills gathering is truly terrifying. Recovering from their cultivation state, Yin Dan felt the powerful, vast spiritual energy surging within a tens of thousands of miles radius, and the overwhelming number and strength of the auras left him stunned. Now they truly understood why Senior Long Yuan had sent them here, just to witness the vastness of the world. They, the top alchemists in the Dou Domain, were now realizing that in this grand world of alchemy in the Great Thousand world, they were likely at the bottom of the food chain. Let's go. Senior Xiao Yan might already be waiting for us at the top of the 10,000 Pills peak, Yao Xin said as he led the group forward. The others immediately followed. The 8 of them, led by Xiao Yan, moved steadily toward the 10,000 Pills Peak, located hundreds of thousands of miles away. Along the way, they vaguely felt probing forces sweeping over their group. These were the detection abilities of other participants, likely trying to gauge the strength of their competitors. However, Xiao Yan understood that, in terms of both strength and alchemy, they would likely be regarded as insignificant ants and not even worth considering. What's there to be cautious about when it comes to ants? At a steady pace, with no hindrances, they traveled for nearly an hour before finally reaching the foot of 10,000 Pills Peak. Hovering in mid-air, they gazed at the towering mountain ahead. Having never seen such a massive mountain before, their first reaction was awe. Filled with awe, they began to ascend toward the clouds above the mountain. As they passed through the thick clouds, and the immense peak came into full view, their shock clearly escalated to another level. The 8 members of Xiao Yan hovered several tens of thousands of feet away from the mountain peak. What lay before them was a scene filled with tens of thousands of figures. Among these people, nearly none had power below the 3 trials level, and the number of those above the supreme stage was close to 10,000. Xiao Yan scanned the area with his detection abilities and found that there were still thousands of people whose strength he could not see through. In other words, there were many here whose power far surpassed that of a second-grade supreme. Fortunately, they all had 2 destruction lotus pills given to them by Xiao Yan earlier. Otherwise, if a conflict were to arise with other powerful individuals at the 10,000 Pills gathering, this place would nearly be their burial ground. Could the 10,000 Pills gathering be held inside there? Tian Maluo looked at the massive spatial vortex hovering atop the mountain and said with a grave expression. He had originally thought that the gathering would take place within the great domain of 10,000 Pills, which was rich in spiritual energy and an ideal place for alchemy. But now, everyone was gathered around a massive spatial vortex that stretched tens of thousands of feet high, waiting for the gathering to begin. As the 8 of them drew closer to the mountaintop, they finally saw a dozen figures standing closest to the vortex. The strength of these people was beyond Xiao Yan's ability to detect. Those must be the senior members of the Pill God clan and ancient myriad grass plains, right? They must be the ones hosting the 10,000 Pills gathering, Yin Dan observed, looking at the dozen figures standing in front of the spatial vortex. He then glanced at the vortex behind them and speculated, I wonder what's behind that vortex? Could it be a specially open space? Just as Yin Dan finished speaking, another familiar voice echoed from the space before them. Behind the spatial vortex is a lower dimension, one of the 10 super-large lower dimensions, the heavenly spirit dimension. As the voice fell, a figure emerged from the space before them. It was Xiao Yan, who had left 3 days ago. One of the 10 super-large lower dimensions, the heavenly spirit dimension? When Xiao Yan's words reached Xiao and the others, they were all momentarily stunned. They had originally thought that the space behind the vortex was just an area specially opened for the gathering, but they hadn't expected it to be a lower dimension, and one of the 10 super-large lower dimensions at that. According to Xiao Yan, this so-called heavenly spirit dimension seemed even larger than the Dou Domain. The 10 super-large lower dimensions were mapped and ranked before the ancient world-ending war, and their rankings are based purely on their size. In the past, our original Dou Chi world was ranked 7th, and the current Dou Domain is similar, Xiao Yan explained to them. The heavenly spirit dimension, however, is ranked 3rd. In terms of sheer size, the heavenly spirit dimension is more than twice as large as the Dou Domain. More than twice the size of the Dou Domain. Xiao and the others gasped. The Dou Domain was already a vast place in their eyes, but now the heavenly spirit dimension was more than double its size. Furthermore, they hadn't expected that the Dou Domain was only ranked 7th among the 10 super-large lower dimensions. What then could the largest lower dimension be like? With so many high-level alchemists, if the competition were to be held in a single space, even a high-level lower dimension with a radius of several million miles wouldn't be able to withstand the chaos. If this space were to be used for alchemy by so many alchemists, even a regular super-large lower dimension with a radius of tens of millions of miles would have its spiritual energy drained dry. So, there are only 2 choices, Xiao Yan continued. The first is to hold the alchemy contest in the Great Thousand Worlds, and the second is to find an even larger lower dimension, or one of the 10 super-large lower dimensions. Since the 10,000 Pills gathering is not open to the public, it is clear that the competition venue must be a lower dimension. But if so many high-level alchemists gather in the heavenly spirit dimension and cause such a disturbance, what about the native inhabitants? Xiao and the others asked, worried. The heavenly spirit dimension was once the domain of an ancestor of the ancient myriad grass plains. During the ancient world-ending war, it became a key target for the extraterritorial clans. To conquer the heavenly spirit dimension, the extraterritorial clans even sent out evil demons of the heavenly emperor grade. If it hadn't been for the Pill God clan's rescue, the heavenly spirit dimension might have been completely consumed. The Pill God clan gave the heavenly spirit dimension a second chance at life, Xiao Yan explained. After the world-ending war, the strong from the heavenly spirit dimension moved to the Great Thousand Worlds, and with the help of the Pill God clan, they developed into the ancient myriad grass plains. Over tens of thousands of years, these two clans have become ancient allies. I see. After hearing Xiao Yan's explanation, Xiao and the others also seemed to understand, realizing why the Pill God clan and the ancient myriad grass plains could use such a massive super lower dimension to hold the 10,000 Pills gathering. It turns out that the heavenly spirit dimension originally belonged to them. The ancient myriad grass plains descendants no longer reside in the heavenly spirit dimension. Not only that, but the heavenly spirit dimension has been entirely transformed into a space dedicated to cultivating medicinal herbs. The once varied continents have now been separated into millions of landmasses, each several tens of thousands of miles in size, and on every continent, a specific herb is cultivated. Almost every herb known to ordinary people can be found in the heavenly spirit dimension. From the information I've gathered over the past 3 days, I've learned that there are even some super medicinal herbs nurtured by the blood essence of true dragons and true phoenixes. Xiao Yan said. In the 3 days since he left Xiao and the others, Xiao Yan had done 2 things. Besides understanding the powerful participants of the 10,000 Pills gathering, the second thing he did was to investigate known details about the heavenly spirit dimension in advance. True dragon, true phoenix blood essence? Xiao Yan's words again shook Xiao and the others. Though they were new to the Great Thousand Worlds and did not know the exact status of true dragons and true phoenixes in the world, they were certain that anything related to dragons and phoenixes, whether in any lower dimension or in the Great Thousand Worlds, was far from ordinary. Such materials used in alchemy were of the highest grade. The fact that the Pill God clan and the ancient myriad grass plains could provide such rare alchemical materials for participants was, to say the least, rather extravagant. Thousands of years ago, the Pill God clan had a dispute with the True Dragon and True Phoenix clans over such matters. However, even if the Pill God clan allied with the ancient myriad grass plains, or even the entire 10,000 Pills continent, they would still be no match for the True Dragon and True Phoenix clans. It's unclear why, but later, the True Dragon and True Phoenix clans allowed the 10,000 Pills gathering to use their blood essence as alchemical material. Xiao Yan continued, his gaze turning towards the peak of 10,000 Pills Mountain, where the clan leader of the Pill God clan and high-ranking figures from the ancient myriad grass plains stood. So the publicity for the 10,000 Pills gathering wasn't false. Perhaps in the heavenly spirit dimension, any herb can really be found. And the best reward a participant can gain is any pill that can be refined, Xiao Yan said, gazing at the tens of thousands of figures gathering at the peak of 10,000 Pills Mountain. 99% of the people here aren't here to compete in the traditional sense. They've come because of the almost endless supply of high-grade medicinal herbs in the heavenly spirit dimension. They're just looking to make a profit, and winning or losing doesn't concern them at all. Then does that mean the 10,000 Pills gathering has no real meaning? It seems like a plain loss for the Pill God clan and the ancient myriad grass plains. Xiao and the others asked in confusion. It's certain that the Pill God clan and the ancient myriad grass plains will incur losses in terms of medicinal resources, but their gains will be far greater. According to the rules of the 10,000 Pills gathering, no participant is allowed to take medicinal herbs directly. The only thing that can be taken away is the pill the participant refines themselves, and only one. So, under these rules, The only way for participants to maximize their gains is one path, Xiao Yan replied. Find the best herbs and refine the best pill, Yao Xian said. Yes. Xiao Yan nodded. In this case, all the alchemists will have to demonstrate their highest level of alchemy skills, and that is the true purpose of the 10,000 pills gathering. The true purpose of the 10,000 pills gathering? The true purpose of the 10,000 pills gathering is to inject new blood into the Pill God clan and the ancient myriad grass plains by recruiting those who perform exceptionally well in the gathering, Xiao Yan explained. I see. After listening to Xiao Yan's explanation, Yao Xian and the others finally understood the real purpose of the 10,000 pills gathering. The 10,000 pills gathering is held every 2 years, with only one round of competition, and a single pill determines the winner. The time flow in the heavenly spirit dimension is 3 times faster than outside. So from the outside world's perspective, the gathering only lasts about 8 months. Before that, you need to decide which pill you want to refine, and once the gathering begins, you'll immediately need to search for the medicinal herbs to refine it, The 8 members of Yao Xian nodded in agreement, though they were still quite worried. Although the 10,000 pills gathering in the heavenly spirit dimension had a 2-year duration, they couldn't help but feel anxious when they thought about how this dimension was twice the size of the Dou Domain. They feared that gathering the medicinal herbs they needed in such a vast world, spanning millions of miles, would require traveling from one end to the other, possibly multiple times. The time it would take was uncertain, and if luck wasn't on their side, they might not even find the herbs they sought before the gathering ended. In the heavenly spirit dimension, I may not be able to fully ensure your safety. If you encounter danger, use the destruction lotus pills I gave you earlier, Xiao Yan said. Senior Xiao Yan, you just focus on refining the pills. We don't need to worry about our safety, Yao Xian and the others responded firmly. It wasn't because they were afraid of causing Xiao Yan trouble, but because they believed that if they couldn't even preserve their lives at such a pill refinement event, their goal of helping the Dou Domain rise would be a joke. After sharing the necessary details with Yao Xian and the others, Xiao Yan stood with his hands behind his back, quietly waiting for the 10,000 pills gathering to begin. This calm wait lasted for several minutes until a thunderous bell rang out, echoing across the heavens and earth. Instantly, tens of thousands of eyes turned toward the sound, and Xiao Yan's gaze shifted toward the figures standing before the space vortex at the summit of 10,000 pills. Among them, 2 figures stood at the forefront. One was an elderly man holding a green wooden staff, his deep-set eyes giving off a strange feeling, as though there was an entire world within them. He was the leader of the ancient myriad grass plains, Gao Yuan. Standing beside him was none other than the patriarch of the Pill God clan, Dan Yu. These 2 true rulers of the 10,000 pills continent were about to open the 10,000 pills gathering. At the summit of 10,000 pills, when Dan Yu and Gao Yuan stepped forward, tens of thousands of gazes focused on them simultaneously. The crowd fell silent, all waiting for the 2 of them to announce the start of the gathering. In a certain sense, the 10,000 pills gathering was not just a pill refining competition, but a grand celebration among advanced alchemists. Nearly everyone was not there to become the strongest alchemist, but simply to do their best and obtain the best pill. As Dan Yu and Gao Yuan walked forward, among the millions of people at the summit, a pair of eyes scanned the crowd. It was Dan Yu's daughter, Xun'er. According to tradition, the Pill God clan and the ancient myriad grass plains, as the hosts of the 10,000 pills gathering, did not send representatives to compete. However, as long as one was a spiritual alchemist or above, they could participate. After negotiating with her father for some time, Xun'er finally gained permission to join, but not as a disciple of the Pill God clan. Her gaze quickly locked onto another figure not far from her. The person she was watching was not a stranger. It was Lu Xian, with whom she had become friends when she arrived at the Great Thousand World. Just as promised 6 months ago, Lu Xian had come to participate in the gathering. However, Xun'er did not directly approach her because her father and the elders were watching, and they could only meet once they entered the heavenly spirit dimension. I am Dan Yu, the patriarch of the Pill God clan. The 10,000 pills gathering is jointly hosted by my Pill God clan and the ancient myriad grass plains, held once every 30 years. It has been an ancient tradition for tens of thousands of years, making it the largest pill refining event in the Great Thousand World. You, as some of the most prominent alchemists in the world, are fortunate to be here, and I thank you on behalf of the Pill God clan and the ancient myriad grass plains, Danu said with a slight smile as he looked at the tens of thousands of people present. Some of you have participated in previous gatherings, so the rules and details of the event must be known to all through their recounting. I will not waste time repeating them, he continued. This 10,000 pills gathering follows the same format as the past 1,000 gatherings. There will only be one round. In the heavenly spirit dimension, each participant will have 2 years to refine their best pill, equivalent to 8 months in the outside world. Those who perform excellently will have the opportunity to become elders in the Pill God clan and the ancient myriad grass plains, Danu said with a slight smile. Enough of the formalities. According to tradition, the 10,000 pills gathering is not open to alchemists below the level of spiritual alchemist. As Danu's words fell, everyone atop the pinnacle of 10,000 pills saw the plateau beside him cast its gaze over the surrounding world. Then, they saw a white cosmic bag appear in his hand. Before all eyes, the plateau slowly opened the mouth of the white cosmic bag. Whoosh! As the plateau opened the white cosmic bag, everyone present felt an overwhelming surge of spiritual energy radiating from it. From the intensity of the energy waves, it was clear that the fluctuations were on par with the combined force of tens of millions of supreme spiritual liquids. But what surprised most of them was that mixed within the spiritual energy was a scent they were all too familiar with. Pill fragrance. Boom. Just as everyone caught the scent of the pill fragrance emanating from the white cosmic bag, another bizarre change in the heavens and earth caught their attention. The sky over a vast area, extending millions of miles, was suddenly covered by thick, dark clouds. The thunderous roars from the sky made everyone start to realize what was happening. The cause of the heavenly tribulation was the white cosmic bag in the plateau's hand, or rather, the pill inside it. This made some who had never participated in the 10,000 pills gathering curious. What pill was contained in the white cosmic bag that it could summon a heavenly tribulation simply with its fragrance? Boom! The thunderclaps from the sky grew more frequent, and countless lightning dragons darted through the clouds, sending a terrifying wave that made even some of the lower-tier alchemists present, including Xiao Yan, Bei Mingming, Zhu Feng, and Yin Dan, 9-tier alchemists from the Dou Domain, feel a sense of dread. What terrifying thunder power! Bei Mingming gazed at the countless lightning dragons in the sky, her heart trembling. With her current strength at the early stage of the heavenly realm, even the black demon thunder, which appeared when crafting a 9-tier pill in the Dou Domain world, made her cautious. But now, every lightning dragon in the sky carried destructive power on par with the black demon thunder. Get ready, the 10,000 pills gathering is about to begin. As Bei Mingming and the others were shaken by the lightning dragons in the sky, Xiao Yan, standing ahead, spoke softly to them. Just as Xiao Yan finished speaking, everyone finally witnessed the scene they had been waiting for. The plateau, standing in the center of the pinnacle of 10,000 pills, clenched his palm after opening the white cosmic bag. A terrifying force immediately exploded the bag, and a surge of white light engulfed the entire pinnacle of 10,000 pills. The blinding white light was so intense that everyone could not open their eyes. When the light faded after several breaths, the downpour from the sky, like a torrential rain, left most of the crowd gasping in shock. The sky rained down millions of pills, each the size of a dragon's eye, onto the pinnacle of 10,000 pills. However, what astonished everyone was not the quantity of the pills, but the unstable waves radiating from them. Most people's first instinct was to judge that these were all unfinished pills. These are half-finished spirit pills. The last step they lack is the tempering by heavenly thunder, and only alchemists of the spiritual alchemist rank or above can complete this final step. A booming voice rang out from the pinnacle of 10,000 pills as the pills rained down, and it was the plateau speaking. The 10,000 pills gathering has begun. If you wish to enter the heavenly spirit dimension, you must refine your own spirit pill. The plateau's words ignited the already quiet pinnacle of 10,000 pills, and in that instant, Every alchemist present turned their gaze toward the half-finished spirit pills falling from the sky. What had once been composed, steady looks now became fiery with desire. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Understanding what was required to enter the heavenly spirit dimension, the majority of those standing atop the pinnacle of 10,000 pills immediately charged toward the half-finished spirit pills falling from the sky. Tens of thousands of figures shot forward, like locusts, their spiritual power exploding in an instant. The 10,000 pills gathering had finally begun. Everyone, act fast. Don't even think about failing this entry test, Xiao Yan said to the 8 people behind him as everyone rushed forward. Upon hearing this, the 8 of them nodded, then moved like the others, soaring into the air toward the falling rain of pills. Xiao Yan followed suit. Bang, bang. As tens of thousands of figures surged into the sky, waves of immense spiritual energy erupted from the horizon. Under the control of powerful figures, these energies condensed into giant cauldrons. When a semi-finished spirit pill fell from the sky and into one of these cauldrons, the final step of the pill refinement was skillfully carried out by the majority of those present. Countless flames of different colors rose into the sky. Some of these flames were famous for their presence on the 100 million flames ranking, while others were powerful but unknown flames. Despite the many flames from the ranking appearing at the same time, very few could even make it into the top 100. This wasn't because there weren't such powerful flames here. Rather, when refining pills of this level, there was no need to use such overpowering flames. Boom. In the sky, every time a semi-finished spirit pill was refined, a bolt of heavenly lightning would strike down. After just a few breaths, the first batch of people who successfully refined their pills appeared at the pinnacle of 10,000 pills. These individuals, who had effortlessly refined the spirit pills, were clearly at a higher level than both alchemists and mystic alchemists. After completing the final step of refining the spirit pill, they directly sat cross-legged in midair. Meanwhile, on the other side, Xiao Yan casually grabbed a semi-finished spirit pill from midair, then summoned a bolt of heavenly lightning.